This Morning. I'm Sarah Colvin, and joining me in studio, I welcome our town manager, Tom Lynch. Tom, good morning.
Good morning. How are you doing?
I'm well, thank you. How are you?
Well, had a birthday weekend.
Happy birthday to you.
It was just a lot of fun. As I said to my Facebook friends, I expected sparklers and I got fireworks. So it was like, we went over to the Nantucket Daffodil Festival, spent time biking out to Sconset and back, maybe a little ambitious for the first couple of rides of the season, but it was a lot of fun and a lot of activity and just a beautiful, absolute, Saturday was just a gorgeous day.
Absolutely. And you know, Nantucket is such a bike-friendly island. They have that fantastic bike path that goes all around. I have not been there for years, and that is on my list of things that I have to do this summer is go bike on Nantucket.
Well, and they've added to it, you know.
Really?
Oh yeah, it goes both ways. They had a benefactor, I think, who gave $500,000 to, extend it, on one side of the island. So it's great.
Wonderful.
You're right, very bike friendly, and even when you're riding in that section from town out to the rotary where some of the bike paths start, everyone was friendly. They were bike friendly with the automobiles too, so it was very, very nice.
Excellent. Well, I'm glad you had a wonderful birthday.
Thank you.
Much
It was
well
very good.
well deserved. So a couple of things from last week. Of course, the operating budget.
Yes,
we're
you
working
reported
on.
on that a little earlier. It's at the printer. Expecting them back early this week. Our budget action calendar called for it getting to the town council by May 5th. So they'll have 2 weeks to look at it before there's a first reading, and really a whole month to look at it before we begin at the first meeting in June with debate and discussion of it. So that means the CFAC will have about a month to look at it before they have to, do a public comment on it as well. So it's about $181 million, 2.75% increase, which basically means when you look at all of the contractual obligations and fixed costs that we have, it's about a level funded budget. So we'll be looking at all those aspects, and perhaps at a future Barnstable This Morning we'll go over some of the specifics in there, because there are a lot of good projects, but I want the council to have a chance to look at it first and see how it matches up with their goals and objectives that they set out for us to look at.
Fantastic. So we'll stay tuned for that.
Yes.
Friday, of course, was Arbor Day, and I know you were down at Barnstable High School with our tree warden, Charlie Genitosio, planting a couple of new trees down there at the Cobb Astro Park.
Well, it was nice this year because Mike Gyra brought out, and a couple of the other teachers brought out several classes out to listen to the proclamation and comments from Charlie regarding the 2 trees that were planted. And, Charlie's retiring later this year from as tree warden. And, he's going to have had a career where he can look back at thousands of trees that have been planted and know that gee, that was there, that he put that as a small seedling, if you will, and 20 years ago, and look where it is now, So, but the Dan Santos was there, and Assistant Town Manager Mark Ells, Judy Search from the Central Beautification Committee was the MC. So it all went, very nicely, and it's just a reminder that how beautiful that Cobb Astro Park is, and this with 2 additional, trees, flowering trees that will be there. So, and I think one thing that's good is when the young people see someone like Charlie who's so passionate about that, the environment and the contribution that trees make, and it makes them perhaps pause and say, boy, here's someone who's devoted his life to, beautification efforts and trying to plant the right tree in the right spot, and so it was really nice. It was uplifting.
Nice to celebrate the Arbor
Yes.
Day for sure. So this is some interesting news that we read in the paper over the weekend. A possible sports complex planned, and of course, I grew up in a Green Bay Packers fan household, so to have the former coach of the Green Bay Packers here on Cape Cod is I think it's a pretty cool thing. And he's involved in the sport complex, from what I understand.
Is the pack back?
I think so.
I had a call from Jeff Spillane from the Cape Cod Times, who was asking for some comment on that. And on the one hand, that additional youth and sport activities that can be in our community will be beneficial. And I think the Cape Cod Chamber has looked at various ways that in travel patterns of families, and they'll come for specific events. And having a venue there that can add to the indoor and outdoor facilities that we presently have could definitely be beneficial. They're talking about another sheet of ice. We, of course, have the two at the Hyannis Youth and Community Center. So will there be competition? We'll have to see. It will, it'll depend on what sort of programming they're thinking of bringing in. So we'll be more than happy to meet and share information that we've had on our marketing and the success of our venue here in Hyannis, and see how compatible and ways that we could partner and work together. So it's an ambitious project. I know that one thing we found is that right after the Youth and Community Center had opened, we found that the desire for certain indoor sports like indoor soccer or roller derby or things of that nature came in, and things that perhaps we couldn't accommodate very well in our facility. So we certainly want to share with them as they look to put together their operation, gaps that we saw that they might be able to fill. So
very interesting.
Well, and I think if they're going to do maybe year-round baseball or things like that, that would be in some sort of domed gym or outdoor or area like that that's normally where outdoor sports are played, I think there could be a very strong market for that and throughout the Cape.
Absolutely, and I know there was an attempt to do something similar in the Golden Triangle of Sandwich, but that
Yes.
for some reason that area is just doomed. It's very difficult to do development out there. So interesting. Certainly, we'll have to kind of see how that would work in terms of working with the HYCC. Would it be competition? But certainly, I know as you mentioned the Chamber, they had been talking about that whole sports tourism thing, and as we've seen with the success of the Hockey East tournament that have been here and all of the sports events that are here, people do want to come for sports.
Well, and Hyannis is well suited with our restaurants and motels to be able to accommodate groups that are going to use this as a travel destination to do a particular form of sports competition. So we're very cognizant of making sure that we have good ball fields and indoor operations, and we're going to we've used our capital budget to build those up, whether it's Lombard Field or Lopes or Osterville, ways that we can, have the best fields that we can. So this will be something else to hopefully offer to, to our families here, and we'll see how that develops. And as you pointed out in your newscast, the Little League had its opening. We were off Cape and unable to enjoy that, but, I went by to see the Scudder Bridge, if you will, yesterday, and there were kids out playing, and what a great complex.
It really is.
It just gets better and better over there.
It's fantastic over there.
So much volunteerism.
Indeed, it's amazing.
Yeah.
So the last thing to talk about, of course, we've been paying attention to the story. I went over to see these uncovered murals that the artist Vernon Coleman had created in the old Mayflower restaurant, and now there was some concern as to whether or not they could be saved, and now we hear they are going to be preserved.
Well, and I just want to give a public thank you to all the community members who came together, and Mr. Pappas, who owns the building, and the owners of Cacades, who came down and said, yeah, we're community minded and spirited, and if there's something we can do to save them, we're willing to step to the plate and do that. So looks like there's a restorationist on board, and they're going to include that into their building plan. I think as people go to the restaurant, they'll be able to see this piece of historic Hyannis that we were able to save, and it was just something that was very gratifying to see come together.
Wonderful. Well, Tom, I thank you so much as always for joining us, and happy birthday again. And we will check in with you again next week.
All right.
Tom Lynch, of course, is our town manager. Up next is interim superintendent of schools Bill Butler. We'll send you out to look at rainy Katuitt. We'll be back with more Barnstable This Morning.